Few technologies have the potential to transform our society to a degree that could reshape the philosophical and moral bedrock on which it's grounded. Neurotech is one of them, with the consequences of this technology being so far-reaching that it could eventually redefine our idea of morality, free will, and even government itself. Here I will focus on those consequences, and contemplate a series of gripping and provocative questions, ranging from our current concept of ethics and the parochial dichotomy of good versus evil, to how neurotech will upend our understanding of these ideas, and unmask the illusion of free will and human autonomy. I will also delve into how this tech could influence our laws, provide the foundation for new forms of government, and highlight the ways in which it can impact our society by creating a world where our thoughts, desires, and personalities become editable constructs. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, and with that having been said, let's begin. Despite the colossal gap in knowledge, technology, and culture between us and our early human ancestors, remarkably little has changed over the past 200,000 years from an evolutionary perspective. At its core, our brains remain largely indistinguishable from those of early Homo sapiens, retaining all of the instinctual traits which we once evolved for a very different environment than the one we now inhabit. In effect, our brains are like 200,000-year-old hardware running 21st century software, a polarity that's responsible for many of the issues that plague modern human civilization. But humanity now stands at a pivotal inflection point, where the technology that we once developed to bypass the limitations of our evolution will finally allow us to take control of it entirely, enabling everything from intelligence and perceptual enhancements to the ability to edit the very fabric of human psychology. To understand the impetus of this transformation, one has to look no further than the capabilities of today's state-of-the-art neurotech, which range from rudimentary forms of sensory augmentation to the capacity to influence our very thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Brain chips designed to treat everything from addiction to severe depression have already been developed, and proven effective in treating these ailments and the failure of all other recourse. These devices function via a technique called deep brain stimulation, which involves surgically implanting electrodes into specific regions of the brain. These electrodes are then connected to a pulse generator, a device that delivers controlled electrical impulses to modulate the neural activity of these targeted areas. Without going too much into detail, this works because our brains function through a complex interplay of neurons, neurotransmitters, and neural networks. Neurons communicate through electrical impulses and chemical signals, forming intricate circuits responsible for various cognitive and motor functions. Through this complexity is what allows us to think, perceive, and interact with the world around us. With this in mind, even though the neurotech of today can only influence these processes to a limited degree, it's easy to see how this technology, when taken to its ultimate conclusion, will eventually allow us to control every facet of human behavior. And in a future with fully mature brain-computer interfaces, everything from our emotional state to our desires and behavioral response system will be editable. For instance, say you're in a bad mood. By directly interfacing with your brain's neural circuits, your BCI can employ electrical stimulation that corresponds to neurosignatures linked to specific states, like happiness or the sensation of calm. You could even customize the stimulation parameters based on your preferences, allowing for individualized adjustments to achieve your desired mood state. Or maybe you want to increase your level of focus. Your BCI could stimulate different brain regions and recreate neural patterns associated with heightened concentration. Or perhaps you don't want to have to continually calibrate the way you feel or behave at all. You could just preset your BCI to cancel out certain emotions by default, and never have to experience negative feelings like sadness, anxiety, or distress to begin with. All of this is possible, and it also highlights an important point, which is that human behavior and our conscious experience as a whole is predetermined by the way our brains receive and interpret electrical impulses. That is to say, that brain activity precedes conscious decision-making, and neural processes related to actions occur before a person becomes consciously aware of their intention. This has broad implications on both a moral and philosophical level, as it ultimately signifies some uncomfortable truths, like the fact that a psychopath who commits mass murder out of blind rage is no more at fault than a schizophrenic who perpetrates the same crime under the influence of delusion. In no other case is this better illustrated than with the story of Charles Whitman, an American mass murderer who gained notoriety for the Texas Tower shooting of August 1, 1966, which occurred when he climbed the University of Texas's observation deck and began indiscriminately shooting people. The massacre continued for 96 minutes before he was gunned down by police, after which it was revealed that a brain tumor found in his autopsy was the likely culprit of his actions. If a previously normal person could commit these acts due to impulses that arose from a brain injury or disease, then how can they be morally separated from someone who is born with them out of blind chance? The honest truth is that they can't, and therein highlights both the inherent flaw of the contemporary moral framework that guides public perception and just how profoundly neurotech could upend it. This is because if we acknowledge the fact that neuroscience demonstrates free will as an illusion, then by virtue of this, punishment becomes a fallacious construct, leaving the sole basis for criminal imprisonment being to guard society against their transgressions. With all of this in mind, it becomes clear that neurotechnology could absolve us of this moral contradiction, as once it becomes feasible to alter our thoughts and desires with a high enough level of precision, these implants can be designed to target brain regions associated with impulsive and aggressive behaviors, letting us reshape the cognitive and emotional landscape of individuals with a predisposition for criminal conduct. These types of neurological interventions could eliminate the need for prisons or mental institutions, as violent criminals could be given the choice of either facing imprisonment or being implanted with a device that alters the way they think and behave, effectively recalibrating their cognitive patterns and mitigating their impulsivity and aggression. The potential benefits of this would be substantial, but it would also give rise to a profound ethical dilemma, like the fact that authoritarian governments could implement such measures preemptively, allowing them to not just rid their societies of crime, but potentially even control the thoughts and behaviors of their populations along ideological terms. The possible implementation of this could take on multiple directions, ranging from the mandated psychometric testing of all children, which would allow early neurological intervention if antisocial tendencies are exhibited, all the way up to controlling every element of a population's thoughts and behaviors, and tuning them in a way that corresponds to a specific ideological framework. But another possibility can also be considered, which is that by using neurotech to reinvent the human condition, we could eventually eliminate the need for traditional forms of government entirely. In essence, government exists as a result of the imperfect nature of humans and the social dynamics that emerge as a result of it. But once you can change human nature itself, the underlying dynamics that are linked to it become radically altered. As a result of this, you could imagine a scenario where through mass-scale neurological programming, the need for governance to regulate behavior would entirely dissolve, as in a world with total social cohesion and the absence of crime, the basis for its existence would be eliminated. Obviously, this kind of behavioral augmentation would blur the line between individual autonomy and social harmony, and in doing so raise profound ethical considerations. But then one might ask the question, that if free will is an illusory construct to begin with, then in what way does this even fundamentally matter? Because if human decisions are intricately tied to deterministic neural processes, then the ethical framework traditionally based on autonomous free will becomes questionable. In this sense, individuals don't possess autonomy to begin with, as their thoughts, feelings, and actions are simply the outcome of deterministic brain functions. As such, this kind of mandated neurological programming could simply be viewed as a tool to address and modify these predetermined processes, rather than the imposition of a fixed set of behavioral patterns and the erosion of human autonomy. These are all questions that humanity will have to grapple with over the next couple centuries, as the ability to reinvent human nature itself will give rise to an unprecedented landscape for the evolution of political theory, echoing the way in which the Industrial Revolution brought about novel ideologies like communism and fascism. Even political doctrines that have historically failed due to inherent features in human nature, like tribalism or selfishness, could experience a resurgence if neural interventions can address the underlying barriers that previously hindered their implementation. All of this underlines that the human race is at a pivotal point in its development, where technology itself is beginning to be incorporated into the process of our evolution. This video is just one of multiple others I've made that cover this dynamic, so if you wish to gain a more comprehensive understanding of it, I recommend you check them out if you haven't already, as they cover everything from the future of sensory and intelligence augmentation to how this tech would allow us to create new realities entirely. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and keep watch for new content, and I'll catch you soon.